If you know me, then you know that online courses have completely transformed my life. Not just taking them, but creating them. The truth is, you already have knowledge that could help someone else, and an online course could be your ticket to more time, more freedom, more money, and impact. If you've been wanting to create and sell your own online course, then listen up. I want to tell you about my friend Amy Porterfield and invite you to join us. Amy's not just a course creation expert, she's one of my best friends, and she was my first mentor. She made the whole online course thing feel possible for me, and now I want you to have the same experience. Starting on September 11th, Amy is kicking off Course Confident, a live digital course creation bootcamp. Inside the bootcamp, you'll nail down your digital course idea, even if you don't currently have one. You'll learn how to price it, and you'll learn how to build an audience that's ready to enroll when you're ready to launch. You'll also join an exclusive community that you can learn alongside of in the process. There is no one I trust more to guide you through this process than Amy Porterfield. So join the bootcamp now at jennakutcher.com/bootcamp. And here's the best part. When you join through my link, I'll give you free access to Insta Essentials. That's 2 months of done-for-you Instagram strategy, expert insights, and a toolkit to help you show up and convert. Valued at $49, absolutely free when you join. Head to jennakutcher.com/bootcamp to join Amy's bootcamp and create your online course today. And so I just think having a mentor, again, whether it's free, like the form of this podcast, or someone that you hire formally, showing up for them, staying accountable, taking action, man, that will absolutely keep you ahead of the curve. I'm Jenna Kutcher, your host of the Goal Digger podcast. I escaped the corporate world at the age of 23 with nothing more than a $300 camera from Craigslist and a dream. Now I'm running a 7-figure online business that feels even better than it looks, all from my house in small town Minnesota with my family. Here, we value time as our currency. We mix the woo and the work, and we are in the pursuit of building businesses that give us the freedom to live lives that we love. I've always loved turning big goals into reality, and I'm here to help you do the same. This isn't just a peek behind the curtain. Come along with me and my guests as we tear the whole curtain down. Every week, we tackle practical, no-fluff marketing strategies and host honest discussions on what works and what doesn't. Join me and my expert guests for actionable insights to help you grow your dream business with confidence. Pull up a seat and get ready to be challenged, inspired, and empowered. This is the Goal Digger Podcast. Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a rut, wondering how to stay ahead of the curve while everyone around you seems to be making big moves? Whether you're feeling like you're just getting started or you're already established, one thing is for sure. To lead in your industry, you've got to be committed to continuous growth and evolution. And that means learning and growing and staying sharp. In today's episode, I'm breaking down 5 effective ways to stay ahead in your industry and how to feel like you're not constantly falling behind. Trust me, these strategies aren't about cramming more into your already busy schedule. Instead, they're about working smarter, not harder, and leveling up in ways that feel intentional and aligned with your goals. So whether you're driving to work, walking the dog, or grabbing your morning coffee, it is time to dive into these actionable strategies. By the end of this episode, you'll have a clear game plan for how to stay relevant, competitive, and always moving forward in your industry. Let's do this. Super quick question. How many tabs do you have open right now? Like, actually go to your browser and check. If you have ADHD like me, it's a lot. And when you throw a business into the mix, it's even more. You might have a tab for your email marketing system, one for your payment software, one for your CRM, content tools, email tools. And with all those tabs, you're spending more time searching through data and less time, growing your business. But with HubSpot's customer platform, you can close all those tabs and access all your tools in one convenient place. With HubSpot, you'll get everyone's eyes on the same work, boost data analysis with AI, optimize workflows for marketing, improve pipeline management for sales, and keep track of every customer question, big or small. So close those tabs. It's business growing time. Visit HubSpot.com to get started today. That's HubSpot.com. First things first, I just kind of want to off the cuff address this idea of staying ahead. I think a lot of times we can trick ourselves into feeling behind because we are so busy watching everyone else. And one practice I've really gotten in the habit of over the years is really asking myself if I feel like I'm behind or if I notice that I'm jealous of somebody else, is really asking myself, but is that successful for me? And here's a really quick story before we dive in. I will never forget when I was in the heyday of my wedding photographer days, and I saw one of my friends post this beautiful wedding photo, and it was of a bride and groom in front of the Eiffel Tower. And all of a sudden, I kind of felt that jealousy rising. And I was like, oh my gosh, what I would give to shoot a wedding in Paris. And I sat with that for a minute. And then I asked myself, but would that be considered successful to me? And I reverse engineered all of the things that had to go in to that final shot that I was seeing on Instagram. She had to have a passport that was updated. She had to fly on an international flight. She had to be jet lagged. She had to carry all of her gear with her through a city that she might not be familiar with. She had to wake up at an ungodly hour to get it where there weren't tons of crowds. Then she had to fly back home and edit all these images. And when I reverse engineered it, the bingo hall wedding in Wisconsin suddenly looked a lot more exciting to me. And so when we start to notice that we are feeling behind, I really want to ask you to question yourself and say, in those things that I'm feeling jealous about or seeing other people and feeling like they're moving ahead from me, is that truly successful for me? Or is that maybe just something that I can clap for them? And that has just helped me so much. And so I wanted to just kick off this episode and say, one, feeling jealous of other people is totally normal. And I think that a lot of times when we dig into those jealous feelings, we can either uncover unconscious goals of ours, like things that we're like, dang, I wish I had the audacity to write a book, or man, I really wish I could take a 3-month sabbatical. And so jealousy can guide us in the way of like really establishing like maybe that is a hidden goal of mine that I'm afraid to confess. Or it can align us again with what is our definition of success and what is considered successful for us. And how can I clap for and cheer on other people who might be pursuing different definitions of success? So I will step off my soapbox and dive into the content, but I just thought that was important. So one of the first things that I highly recommend if you want to stay ahead of the curve is having a mentor. I have had so many different mentors in so many different forms over the years. And mentorship is the number one way, in my opinion, to stay at the top of your industry, to stay at the top of your game, and to stay accountable to doing the things that you said you were going to do. If you have ever had a coach, whether you were an athlete or you have a business coach or a life coach or a therapist or anything of that sort, you know the power of having something on your calendar where you are going to have to be able to report to somebody, right? Like someone is going to be holding you accountable to doing the things you're saying you're going to do. And I think that mentorship is one of the best ways to hold yourself accountable and to move towards what you really want. Now, I will never forget years and years ago, almost a decade ago, when I was first entering the online course space, I knew that I didn't want to figure it all out by myself. I brought on my friend Amy Porterfield. She had no idea who I was because I bought her online course at the time. But I also wanted a mentor to teach me like exactly how to launch a course, right? I learned how to create the course. I wanted to know exactly how do I launch it. And I knew there was a lot of technical things and even team members that I didn't even have at the time. And so I emailed Amy Porterfield, who at the time so politely declined my request to mentor me, which is actually hilarious and something we laugh about to this day. And then she pointed me to someone that she had used as a coach. And then he pointed me to someone that was in his community. And as luck would have it, a few months later, I was flying to the state of Virginia to meet a total stranger to learn how to launch my course. And it was kind of wild. Like when I look back at it now, like I stayed in a stranger's house and for 2 days, she had those giant whiteboards and we were mapping out my launch and the email funnel and the ad strategy and who I needed on my team and all of these different things. But when I look back at that, even though I don't necessarily subscribe to some of the things I learned while I was with that mentor, I saw how quickly I fast-tracked my success and how quickly I escaped some of the mistakes that a lot of people make when they're first starting out. Did you know that 70% of people think mentors are important, but only 37% have one? I think that a lot of us acknowledge that having a coach or a mentor would be incredible. And I also want to say a lot of us probably can't afford to have the mentor or coach that we desire. But if you are able to take on a mentor, whether free or paid, of someone who has gone before you, who has been where you want to go, and who can offer you a roadmap, you will get there faster. And I say free or paid because even listening to this very podcast, I am your mentor. Whether you acknowledge it or not, I get to speak into your life and your business in a way that is so valuable to me, but hopefully valuable to you. And so you are already taking on a mentor. And I want for you to take that seriously. The key is to invest in the right mentor. So here's what I'll say. Over the years, I've had so many different mentors. And one of the biggest things that I see, a mistake that I've made in the past, a mistake I don't want you to make, is you want to make sure that your mentor fully aligns with your values and your definition of success. And what I mean by that is, I have learned from certain people amazing strategies that are really valuable. But at the end of the day, they don't match the lifestyle I want. They don't match the level of freedom that I desire. And so while all of that well-intentioned advice was great, it wasn't really put to use in the most valuable way because at the end of the day, it didn't necessarily align with me. And so you really want to look for the right mentor. You want to look for peer alignment and you want to look for values. And they don't have to all be perfect. In today's world, I think it'd be really hard to find anyone who agrees with you on absolutely everything. But you want to make sure that your core values are in alignment because at the end of the day, I think values are the lens that we put everything through. It's the filter that we make decisions through. It's a filter that we move through. It's a filter that we work through. And so hiring a mentor that is in alignment and finding someone who has gone before you is key. And I will say that having someone outside of your perspective helps you to see potential opportunities and challenges differently. And so that's why I love mentorship, especially with people who have gone before you, because they have made the mistakes. They can take what they've learned over years and condense it down into days and sometimes hours for you. And they can also provide key feedback tailored to your unique strengths and weaknesses. And so I just think having a mentor, again, whether it's free, like the form of this podcast, or someone that you hire formally, showing up for them, staying accountable, taking action, man, that will absolutely keep you ahead of the curve. You probably have some fond memories of going on vacation as a kid. Maybe it was a simple camping trip, but those moments were magical. For me, one of my favorite outdoor memories was diving into the pool at the Shamrock Motel in the Wisconsin Dells with my family. I wrote about that memory in my book. And now as a mom, I want to share with my kids everything I loved about nature growing up, the parks, beaches, and camping trips. But now with all these heat waves, wildfires, and storms, those cherished places are being threatened by unnatural disasters, extreme weather caused by fossil fuel pollution. This summer alone, the Earth saw the 4 hottest days in recorded history. The time to act is now. By changing how we talk about these events, calling them unnatural disasters, we can spark the critical conversations needed to drive change. That's why I'm joining the millions who are taking a stand to protect everything we love. Whether it's signing the petition at activeman.com or spreading the word on social media, we can all play a part. Human-made problems require human-made solutions, and together we can make a difference. Join us at activeman.com. I love my home in Duluth, and nothing beats being near family. But when it starts getting cold, we're often eager for some priceless time in the sun. And one of our favorite places to go is Scottsdale, Arizona. There's so much to look forward to in Scottsdale, like healthy food, beautiful parks, and ample places for the kids to have new adventures. Plus, one of my favorite Airbnbs I've ever stayed in. It has this amazing location that's close to everything. The decor is fabulous, has a putting green, and even a private pool that we can have heated for an evening swim. It has everything you could need for a comfortable getaway. My favorite Airbnbs feel like home. Just like our favorite escapes, your space can provide comfort and joy to guests looking for a home away from home. Whether it's your entire house or just a spare bedroom, hosting on Airbnb can help you make the most of your space and earn some extra money. You don't need much, just your personal touch. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host. Number 2 is taking an online course. And I get it. I teach online courses. So of course I'm going to say this, but Not only do I teach online courses, I am an avid student of the online course world. I have taken online courses for marketing. I've taken them for sourdough bread. I've taken them for sleep training my children. I have taken them for gardening. I have taken so many online courses over the years, and I think that the online course world is incredible because for so many of us, we need to find education that can fit into our busy lives. We often need to be able to watch and listen to something more than once. I'm speaking for myself here. And a lot of times we want to revisit the content, right? Have you ever read a book more than once and the second time through, you notice things that you didn't notice the first time? Or you watch a movie for the third time and you're like, I never even saw that part. I feel like online courses give you such a beautiful way of seeing your growth and also learning new things through the same content because you have a different lens and a different perspective because you've likely grown. I'll never forget some of the first online courses that I took. Not only was I being a student, but as I was being a student, I was feeling called to think about like, how could I do this? What would this look like if I took what I know or what I've done and put it into an online course? And so I always take online courses in a twofold manner. One, to learn the content itself, but two, to see how other course creators are positioning their offer, are putting together their content, are guiding you through the process. Like I learn just as much through the content as I do through the frameworks and how people set things up. I am a nerd like that. The thing that I love though is, again, digital courses allow you to sharpen your skills on your own time. They are going to push you further while still offering flexibility. We don't all have time to, fly across the country for a 3-day workshop or things like that. Sometimes too, we just need a piece of the online course, like a piece of the missing puzzle. And what's amazing about the online course world is like you could literally think of anything you want to learn. And I will bet you there is a course out there for that. You can learn how to better serve your clients. You can learn how to use a project management system. You can learn how to market on Pinterest. You can learn how to start a podcast. There are so many different ways that you can stretch what you know through online courses. And again, condense all these hours that you would spend wasting trying to gather this information and trying and failing. What I love about online courses so much, especially when it comes to just staying ahead of the curve, is that you get to learn something once. You get to apply that knowledge again and again and again. And if you think about it, for online courses, a lot of times you pay a one-time fee, but what you do to get results, you get to keep those results, and those results compound over time. There are things that I'm still doing in my business today that I learned through an online course, and I get to reap the rewards because I've done the work. And so if you have any online courses sitting in your inbox with the login info and you haven't logged in a while, go log in. Go sharpen up a skill. Go dig into a module. Go learn something. And if you've never bought an online course, seek out a course that answers your biggest question or really helps you through your biggest pain point right now. If you can learn something in a short amount of time, it is going to save you so many hours and dollars in the long run. I will be an online course girly until the day I die. The next thing you can do to stay ahead of the game is market research. Okay, hear me out here. When is the last time you sat down and you spent time actually researching your peers in your industry or doing a deep dive on what is actually working out in the wild? Okay, just the other day, I set a timer for 30 minutes and I went onto Instagram very strategically, looking at other people's content to see what was working for them. I spent time going to some of my favorite content creators and looking at which posts were popping off for them and what was the subject matter and how did they format it and did they use hashtags and what was the audio. And I did just a deep dive of like, okay, some of these people are posting like 3 times a day. Which ones are actually working for them? And it was so awesome to lift my eyes up because here's what I say. I would say 90 to 95% of the time, you want to be head down. You just want to be in your own little world. You want to be rocking it out, serving your audience, creating new things, all that. Great. But there's something to be said for lifting your eyes up, cheering for the people around you, but also investigating. Like, what are they doing? What are they trying? The other day, one of my dear friends messaged me and We were talking a little bit about Instagram and she was like, "Oh, I noticed that you did a carousel. Carousels are working really well for me." And we ended up having this like hour-long discussion about what is currently working with Instagram strategy. And she's like, "Okay, watch what I do on Instagram stories today. And this is how I'm laying it out. And this is how I'm thinking about it." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so helpful," because I was feeling so stuck. I think this entire summer I went on Instagram stories like 3 times total. I had so much to share and I didn't know what to share at the same time. And so lifting your eyes up to see what other people are doing, to kind of research what's happening, what is trending. A lot of times too, we get so reliant on these systems that we've created that are kind of arbitrary that we don't actually like ask ourselves like, is this worth it? Is this actually working? I know we're doing this right now in one area of my business. And I'm like, we have been doing the same thing for years. Has anyone ever stopped to like be like, does this actually work? Does it make sense? Or should we try something different? And so market research is an amazing, amazing way to just kind of reestablish what is making you different. What are other people out there doing? How can you take what's working for them and put your own spin on it? And are there some other things that you need to try? According to the Hanover Research Report, companies that frequently conduct market research are significantly more likely to report an increase in revenue over the last 12 months than those who infrequently conduct market research. So this is telling us if you want to grow your business or grow your platform or make more money, you need to lift your eyes up very specifically, very strategically, and very thoughtfully. One of the best ways you can be proactive is, again, knowing what is happening both in your industry and outside of your industry. It can help you identify trends. It can help you be aware of audience changes. It can help you be aware of behaviors or questions that you're getting. So here are a couple practical ways to start your market research. So first, set up Google alerts. You can set up Google alerts for different topics, different things. I was just watching something the other day. One of my friends was like, we set up Google alerts for anytime Instagram announced something new for creators so that we are at the very top of understanding what they're prioritizing so that we can test it out, try it out, and get results with it. Another way that you can do awesome market research is to survey your audience on social media. Ask them specific questions, ask them to dialogue, put that little questions box and have them fill in responses. And if you have past clients or customers, send them a survey. Like ask them, where are you at now? What are you working on now? What are you struggling with? What are you looking for? What was your last Google search? Like whatever it is, however you can start to data mine and get some insight into what people actually want and need, the more that you can fill that gap and serve it. And so I am someone who I feel like most of my marketing is like tried and true marketing principles. I'm not a huge trend person, but I have noticed over the past years, if you want to stay relevant, especially on platforms like Instagram, you have to be aware of the trends. And market research is the best way I can do that. Again, set a timer, spend a little bit of time thinking about your favorite creators or your favorite business owners, or digging into some of the creator tools that Instagram gives you, and just kind of lift your eyes up and look around. Number 4 is learning from others. So one of the first experiences that I had where I really put myself in to learn from other people was joining a mastermind. And I have talked about that so many times on this show, but joining a mastermind and having a community who was working towards similar goals and experiencing similar challenges and just committed to gathering together to elevate everyone in the room. That was such a life-changing experience for me. I am still close with a lot of people that were in that mastermind from many, many years ago. And I just think that masterminds are an amazing way to share what you know and share what's working for you, but also to ask questions. There was a mastermind that I attended last year. It was just like a little one-off thing. It was a free mastermind. Everyone came together. And out of that mastermind, we have this text thread with a group of women. And one of my friends, Patrice, sent out a question to the group. And there's like 6 of us in that text thread. And she was asking something about evergreening or automating a campaign. And the wealth of knowledge that came out from her question, where I didn't even have that question and I was giving her my advice, but then I was learning from other people in that text thread. Like it is so valuable. It's like that hive mind mentality. And I just could not recommend it more. Yes, having a mentor is amazing. And if you can afford one and if you can find one, awesome. But also do not discount the power of getting yourself around peers that you can learn from. And what's awesome is that when you are with people who are willing to share what is working for them, like even with my friend the other day with the Instagram stories, you can try things out and test them and adapt them to you and your offers and your business and see if it works. And I just absolutely love also hearing about what people are struggling with, because I think oftentimes entrepreneurship is so isolating and we're not really given a lot of opportunities to share with what is really hard right now, right? Sometimes it's not relatable. Sometimes people don't care. Sometimes we don't want to air out our dirty laundry. I get it. And so having a group of people where you can be vulnerable with, you can share what's working, but you can also share where you're struggling, can help you feel way less isolated and way more a part of something bigger than yourself. The internet is an amazing place to connect. There are so many different ways that you could form a little cohort or a little informal mastermind or even a formal one. There's our free Facebook community, our Gold Digger Podcast Insiders group. That group is amazing. And so many friendships and even working relationships have been formed in there. There are real world connections. So you can obviously do workshops or events or join a formal mastermind or do some sort of collaboration. The one thing I will say is if you are able to somehow get in person with other people, I feel like it just makes the bond go deeper, quicker. And then the, phone conversations or email conversations just feel way more authentic because you know that person and you've been with them in the flesh. And I know that's not always possible. In a sea of ads, standing out feels impossible, right? But what if you could skip the guesswork and speak directly to the pros who actually want what you're offering? That's where LinkedIn ads come in, helping you to cut through the noise and connect with the right people fast. LinkedIn ads don't just drop you in front of a crowd, they help you create connections that matter. Plus, their tools are built specifically for B2B marketers, so you're not spinning your wheels on leads that don't count. When 79% of B2B content marketers say LinkedIn delivers the best results for paid media, it is clear that you're making the right choice. LinkedIn has been my go-to for keeping up with industry trends and connecting with people who've made a real difference in my business. It's where I keep my edge and make informed choices in my marketing. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/goal to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/goal. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be. Growing your team can feel super intimidating. Creating a job description, posting it, responding to applicants, and finding the best fit. It's a lot. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. I've used LinkedIn Jobs to hire my last 6 team members. It is just that good, and it is truly the only way I hire. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Join the 2.5 million small businesses, including mine, using LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Jenna. That's linkedin.com/Jenna to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. The other thing that I want to say too is that a lot of my close friends have very similar businesses to me, but one of the things that I strategically and really thoughtfully try to do is to put myself in spaces where I can learn from other industries. And so even when I joined that mastermind years ago, a lot of people were in the health and fitness world. They were in the podcasting world long before I was. They were authors. They were doing things that I didn't even think I wanted to do or had any inclination that I would do. And so being in spaces where you're not surrounded by more of the same is super inspiring. And I feel like it challenges you as a marketer and an innovator to be like, okay, how can I take this one thing that's working for them and apply it to my business or put my own spin on it? And so I feel like being around people that don't do the same thing you do can be a really awesome way to kind of share what is working in your industry or your area, and then to challenge you to get creative with it and to have fun with it. And so learning from others. If you are someone who you feel like you have just been head down in the entrepreneur game, you've been on your own little isolated island doing your thing, here's your invitation to strengthen your circle, to put yourself in awkward situations where you have to meet new people and tell them what you do, but also expanding the opportunity to grow rich in relationships. And so many of my closest friends I've met through networking and events and masterminds and this business world, but I wouldn't trade it for the thing because I now feel like I have peers and coworkers and I'm not just alone in this whole journey. And not only that, it's also helped my business because I have people to talk to who understand what I'm trying to do and how I'm doing it and who can help me fill in the gaps where I'm struggling. Number 5, if you want to stay ahead of the curve and you do not want to fall behind, this is the crème de la crème, in my opinion. Do not be afraid to experiment. You guys are so afraid of trying new things. You are afraid of messing up or somebody seeing that your little experiment didn't work, that you are not trying anything interesting or new or innovative. Experimentation is crucial to move your business forward. In my business, we are constantly experimenting to see what works and what doesn't. I am doing experiments. I feel like a mad scientist most weeks because I am not afraid to try something new to see what happens. And I think that this goes back to a lot of the black and white thinking that we naturally hold of like, this is either going to be a success or a failure. And we're failing to see that there are so many shades of gray in entrepreneurship. And something doesn't have to be successful or a failure. It can just yield a result, and that result can help you make future decisions. So if you don't try things, you don't get the result that helps guide you forward. So here's some of the ways I've experimented in the past. So I love experimenting with social media. So I just referenced, but this summer, I literally showed up on Instagram stories a total of like 3 times. Basically, once a month, I do a little dump of what I've been up to, and that was it. And it was really interesting because I wanted to see, 1, did it impact my views? 2, did it impact my business? And it didn't really, but now I'm like looking at new strategies. I'm like, okay, how can I get re-inspired? Because I actually do love this space. I love, communing in my DMs with other people. But that was an experiment because I was like, you know what? I'm kind of burnt out on face to camera videos. I don't really feel like creating them. What happens? I remember years ago when we were in Hawaii, this was back when I was still a wedding photographer and I was sharing basically only wedding photos. I experimented and I said, for the next 30 days, I am going to show my face in at least 80% of the content I'm sharing. And it was so out of my comfort zone. Oh my gosh. And I will never forget, the results were insane. Like the month to month followers, it skyrocketed. The engagement skyrocketed. It changed the way that I used Instagram forever just because I said for 30 days, I'm going to commit to this. Another social media one was when I decided to take my kids' faces off the internet. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't announce the experiment. I just said for 30 days, I'm not going to show their faces and I'm going to see how that feels. And guess what? That's turned into nearly 2 years of that. Last year, we experimented with a 4-day work week with my team. And whenever I feel like there's going to be a bigger shift happening, I always want to treat it as an experiment because it gives me the ability to change my mind, right? It gives me the ability to look at the results and say, okay, this is guiding my decision forward. So I said to my team, we're going to try this for 60, 90 days, see how it feels, and then we'll revisit it. And we have not gone back. If you want to hear about that experiment, I totally encourage you to listen. I talk about my 4-day work week in episode 692. It's behind the scenes of our 4-day work week experiment. We'll link it for you in the show notes, but this was a low risk experiment. And now we've ended up doing it and we love it. Like it is just a part of our company culture and something that has been so beneficial for us. I think experimenting is so underrated, especially if you want to be at the top of your game and at the top of your industry. The only way you can be at the top is to be an innovator and to be doing something new. And if you're not willing to experiment, then you're likely just doing the same old thing. And that's not going to help you stand out, but it's also not going to help you evolve. And I think evolution is so beautiful. The final thing that I'll say about the power of experimentation is, and here's a quick story about it. So one of my dear friends, she is one of the hardest workers I know. She is definitely categorized in the workaholic category. And she'll get a new idea and she gets so excited for it. And she has this really big vision. But I always get nervous because I'm like, you don't know for sure that you're going to like it or that it's going to feel the way you think it's going to feel. And so she had these amazing plans to launch this podcast, but she was already overthinking the entire thing, so much to the point where she hadn't taken any action. We were together, and then 6 months later, still nothing had happened. No progress had been made because she was making this idea so big. And so I said, instead of thinking of starting this podcast and having it every week for the rest of your life, what if you just think about looking at it as a 10 episode season? And if after that season, you don't want to do it anymore, or it's not what you thought it was going to be, you completed your goal. It was a success. You did it. And you can walk away knowing that you did the thing and not feel like a failure. And so what if you just even approached it from this idea of it being a season where you are committing to 10 episodes? And guess what? If you love it after 10 episodes, you can do 11 and 12 and 13 and 14, and you can announce a new format of the show. And so I always like to look at going into new ideas or new zones or trying something new through the lens of like, let's just treat this as an experiment and give ourselves an out. If it's not what we thought it was going to be, how are we going to exit it? And that keeps us from feeling either analysis paralysis, like we're making it so big we can't take any action, or feeling like it's a failure if we don't follow through in the way that we once imagined. And so do not be afraid to experiment. Do fun experiments that you don't even tell anyone you're experimenting, but you're just trying out different things, whether it's, posting 3 reels a week this week, or getting on Instagram stories more, or recording your first podcast episode, or writing the first chapter of the book you've dreamt of. Experiment and have fun with it. I feel so much creativity comes from experiment, and so many insights come that help guide your decisions forward with more confidence. All right, there you have it. 5 powerful ways to stay ahead in your industry by making continuous learning a priority. Did you sense that theme? Learning is through it all. If we want to stay ahead, we have to commit to growing and learning and evolving. Whether it's investing in a mentor, signing up for an online course, or simply staying curious by learning from other people. There are so many different ways to level up. And before we wrap up, I just want to remind you, with everything on this show, you don't have to do all the things I say all at once. Simply pick one from today's episode and start there. Start with what resonates with you, where you are at right now, and just watch how it impacts your growth. If you commit to doing one of these things from now until the end of the year, oh my gosh, you are going to be a different person when that calendar switches. The goal is to keep moving forward. It can be slow. It doesn't have to be fast. Your progress probably won't be overnight. People might not clap for it, but one step at a time, you are adapting, you're staying relevant, you're moving ahead of the proverbial curve. And with that, I am proud of you. Until next time, goal diggers, keep on digging your biggest goals. And thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Goal Digger Podcast. Thanks for pulling up a seat for another episode of the Goal Digger Podcast. I hope today's episode fueled you with inspiration, gave you information that you can turn into action, and realigned you with your true north in life and business. If you've enjoyed today's episode, head on over to goaldiggerpodcast.com for today's show notes, discount codes for our sponsors, freebies to fuel your results, and so much more. And if you haven't yet, make sure you're subscribed so that you never miss a future show. We'll see you next time, Goal Diggers.